It's so Friday. Ah! Am I pink enough? Yes, the light's kind of pink, and the makeup is pink, and the bonnet is pink, and the lipstick is pink. The nails aren't pink. I didn't paint the nails. But everything's pink, 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 pink. Because I don't know. Why? Because I don't know. I was in a pink mood. I went to get dressed. Pink. I'll wear the pink blouse. The pink blouse. Pink. Hi. It's Alison in the living room again. What is it? It's Friday. It's Friday. It is so many days today. You know how sometimes I read the national days and it's like one thing. It's like toast day. And they like just, that day somehow didn't get taken. There's like almost nothing on that day. Every day it's like some weird thing. But some days it's like nothing at all. Today is September 4th, Friday. And wow, apparently this is a day that everybody wanted. Because there's like a bunch of things. Now, many of them say they are the first Friday in September, whenever that falls. And Friday before Labor Day. So I guess there's a bunch of people just, I don't know why. They pick my day. I want my day to be the first Friday before Labor Day. Who thinks of these things? I don't know. Spill orange juice on myself. It's washable. Orange juice. I'm having ice cold, frosty, crushed ice orange. In fact, it's turned into a slushie. I put crushed ice in my orange juice, and it's turned into like a 7-Eleven orange juice Slurpee. I'm gonna have to melt. So good. Today is National Chianti Day, which is the first Friday in September, apparently. Chianti, as in Hannibal Lecter, as in Silence of the Lambs, as in I ate a little with some fava beans and a nice Chianti. So it's Chianti Day. Chianti is very good. I have had Chianti is actually quite delicious. I don't know how it is with fava beans and human body parts, but Chianti is a good red wine. You go in the Italian food, like in the restaurants. It's the bottles they hang from the ceiling at the Italian restaurants or the thing. If you're doing spaghetti or pizza, Chianti is a good choice. National Wildlife Day. Oh, I like National Wildlife Day. Because we live up here in Tahunga. It always sounds so exotic. Way up here I'm on Hallmark today. I'm cheating with Andy Garvey. Yes, teaching him. We're way up here in the woods. I mean, we're in the city technically, but it's like the Angeles National Forest is like there. It's so close. So it's National Wildlife Day around here all the time. We have critters. There's critters out there. A lot of coyotes, occasionally raccoons, things. Quail. Lots of quail. There's peacocks. I haven't seen the peacocks, but they're up the road. And then people in this neighborhood have seen mountain lions and bears. I love bears, but I don't want them in my yard because they will eat your face. Bears are those animals, like, they're so cute. I love bears so much, they will rip your head off. They're dangerous. A lot of the cute animals are dangerous. Bears, wildlife. Okay, National Newspaper Carrier Day. Oh, that's very good. Do you get a newspaper delivered? I'm getting into everything's online now. I do get the newspaper online, but Sunday, we get it delivered Sunday because it's the Sunday paper and the comics. It's fun. I like that. Bob had a newspaper route when he was a wee thing. So Newspaper Carrier Day. If you have a newspaper carrier, be sure to give them some money, tip them, Christmas envelope. These people work really hard. It's National Macadamia Nut Day. I do like macadamia nuts. It's a big Hawaiian souvenir thing. They're always giving. I have now the lovely sea salted nuts. Can you believe it? I didn't finish them all yet. There were. I was going to say, there's macadamia nuts in here. Yeah, there were. I think those got eaten really quickly. They're still attached to. There were macadamia nuts in here. Clearly, those got picked out and eaten. Like me. Oh yeah, there's a picture of one of those rounds. There are no more macadamia nuts in here because they were delicious. They got eaten right away. Oh, the Poconos. Yeah, a lot of bears in the Poconos. Feed the bears or macadamia nuts. It is National Lazy Moms Day. First Friday in September. Oh, that's good. You got Mother's Day. where, kids bring you breakfast in bed, maybe, that kind of thing. It's Lazy Moms Day. I think that's good, because moms are almost never lazy. Moms work so hard and so, round the clock, and it's just exhausting. I think that if a mom can possibly take a day and be lazy, that would be a good thing. And they should do that as much as possible. There's a good day. It's National Food Bank Day. Do you know where your local food bank is? They're marvelous. I mean, I don't know how your local food bank is, but here in LA, we got, it's California. We got fancy food banks. We got a food bank, even a little tiny one up the road here. They get the nicest things. I have volunteered there many, many times. I've volunteered over the years at many different food banks. And they need volunteers, and they need food. They need donations. People tend to give a lot at Thanksgiving and Christmas, so they're having to hustle. And right now, a lot of people have been really impacted by the pandemic. They've lost their job. Okay, Charmaine just said, LA Regional Food Bank, yay. A lot of people are struggling, and they're really, the food bank, they're lining up at the food bank. And so the food bank said, we don't know if we have enough food. So, if you can donate to your local food bank or pop by and volunteer if you're able to, they could use that. And they have fancy food banks here. Our big thing, because Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's. Oh, we have Trader Joe's. We have more Do we have Trader Joe's trail mix? Yes, we do. Trader Joe's, which has so many fancy things, donates to the food banks, massively. You go to the food bank, yes, there's, bread and vegetables and fruit and cheese. But then there's a whole table of Trader Joe's fancy salads, pizza dough kits, and just all this great stuff. Because Trader Joe's is cool. And they donate fancy things to the food bank so that people don't just have to eat government cheese and white bread. Fancy stuff, which is cool. So it's Food Bank Day. Now it's time. National College Colors Day. Oh, Friday before Labor Day. Yes, because it's fall and school and football and all of those things that we took for granted are supposed to be happening soon, around now. So National College Colors Day. So today's the day, if you're in college or you went to college and you have colors. I did not go to college. I don't have colors. My high school had colors. Did you Hollywood High. Crimson and white. Red and white, the colors of Hollywood High. But it's College Colors Day, and that makes sense. Although now, where people are not all going back to college, and they're not having a football game, or there's nobody there anyway, and there's a pep rally, there's no pep rally. I don't know, but it's College Colors Day, so do what you can. Tomorrow is pizza. Yes. I love that. So many things in one day. If there are no Trader Joe's in Canada, that's a problem. That is a serious problem. There's no Trader Joe's in Canada, not even on the border. That's bad. We need Trader Joe's. Yummers. Syracuse is orange. San Diego. Hollywood High, what a weird school. Yes, our colors were red and white. Our slogan, we had a slogan or motto, achieve the honorable. And our mascot for our football team was the Sheik. The Sheiks. And people are like, the Sheik? You get a guy in that headdress with a sword on the side of your belly. The Sheik, you say. Yeah, well, because Rudolph Valentino, Hollywood High was built right smack in the heart of Hollywood when it was orange groves. And so when they got a football team, it was Rudolph Valentino, and the Sheik was the thing. So that is why Hollywood High is all about Sheiks. It's very funny. But yes, achieve the honorable red and white. And I had a friend, this guy, 100 years ago. He went to a very, 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 very expensive prep school back east. Very expensive. Preppy. And he was very proud of it. And he found out that their slogan, achieve the honorable, and their colors, red and white, were the same as Hollywood High. That's totally free. He's very upset. No, you can't have the same slogan and colors as my very expensive prep school. And Hollywood High, been around forever. It's probably older than even his prep school. I'm saying. All right. Linda Sue Park's Prairie Lotus. I am loving this book. We're almost done. What are we going to do. No, it's okay. Like I said, we've got Young Predators. Oh, I found my copy. I do have West from Home. I do. I have West from Home, which might be next, because this is the whole thing where they go to San Francisco. Laura goes to San Francisco. Yes. Polly T is always putting up pictures of like the Laura house in San Francisco. So very cool. But we're going to finish with Miss Linda Sue Park and her Prairie Lotus. And for those of you like catching up, like so we always do like the recap. This is Linda Sue Park, this author, read the Little House book so much as a kid she had them memorized. But growing up as she Korean Chinese, American Korean Chinese, she decided to create this character. Hannah is half Chinese, but she actually finds out her mom tells her that she was half Chinese, half Korean. So Hannah is actually 1/4 Korean, 1/4 Chinese. But she is this Asian American girl in the 1880s. And that was the thing, is Linda Sue Park said, what if there was a little girl who looked like me? Because she wanted to hang out with Laura and Nellie and Cat Garland and Almanzo. So she created this story about Hannah, this Chinese American girl, who is half Chinese, half white, and her mother has died tragically. She and her pa cross the prairie in a covered wagon, and they go to a town in South Dakota that is remarkably like De Smet. And she has a friend named Bess, like Laura's nickname, who wants to be a teacher and is graduating early to go teach to help her family with money, and also sews and gets her to sew in her store. And there's a girl named Dolly who's blonde with ringlets and awful. And the Justice of the Peace school board member, who is so good and kind and fair and won't discriminate against a nice Chinese girl, happens to have brown hair and a beard and blue eyes and be the Justice of the Peace, which is Charles Ingalls. Oh, yeah, and he's the father of the girl who wants to be the... Yeah, she's blatantly working the themes in. But it's really cool, and it's all about how this darling little, like, Laura-esque little girl named Hannah and her pa live on the prairie, and then also have to deal with the loss of their mom and her mom, and with people who, in the 1880s in South Dakota, are not very nice to the Chinese girl. But so far, so good. She made it. She managed to go to school. The Justice of the Peace guy said, no, you're not throwing her out of school. And she stayed, and she graduated. And now her dad's having the grand opening of his store, and she loves to sew, so she's going to make dresses. And she's made this sample dress. She wants to sell dresses, not just fabric. She's made this dress that's stunning, and it's a sample, and she's going to put it out front, and people are going to go crazy. And she's got her friend Bess working with her. But, of course, as she said, oh, yikes, wait, she's my employee, and I'm a Chinese girl, and I have a white girl working for me, and they're going to kill me. So she's a little concerned. But Bess isn't. Bess is not concerned. Bess is cool. So there you are. So Bess was right. Oh, she had a fit because she was doing the dress, and it didn't come out the right size because she forgot about the ruching or the shirring or some sewing thing. She's having to redo the bodice. All the sewing people went like, oh, yeah, no, I totally know what she's talking about. Bess was right. By mid-afternoon, Hannah had replaced the front bodice, which now fit perfectly. Bess went out back to use the privy. When she returned, she said, my, those roses are lovely. I didn't know you could grow them like that. Goodness! Hannah jumped to her feet. I forgot about them. Mrs. Blake at the hotel said I could have some lard cans. I'd better go and fetch them now. Besides the fact that the prairie rose bushes had to be transplanted for the opening, it was a Saturday bath night. The wash tub would need to be emptied and cleaned. She has a pile of prairie roses in her wash tub because she's got... she went out on the prairie and got herself some beautiful prairie roses, and then she brought them back in the wash tub, and she's going to put them in little cans for the grand opening, except that means she has to take the wash tub and clean it out because everyone has to take a bath. Yikes! Okay. Shall I come? Will you need help? Oh, no, I'd much rather you stay here and keep hemming. I won't be long at all. Hannah hurried up the street to its north end, crossed to the other side. The hotel's owner, Mrs. Blake, directed her to the kitchen where she collected the cans from Ellie, the hired girl. Ellie was a few years older than Hannah. Her family lived on a homestead several miles out of town. She boarded at the hotel and worked long hours cooking and cleaning for the hotel guests. I'd like to come to the opening, but I wouldn't be able to buy anything, Ellie said wistfully. Of course you must come, Hannah said. You can look all you want, and we'll be serving refreshments, and there will be a raffle. As Hannah left the hotel, the screen door of the next building banged open, and two men lurched out of the saloon. Oh, yeah, because they're in South Dakota, and there is a saloon, and there are, like, horrible people who are, like, day drinking, and it's, yeah, okay. Yikes. Both were obviously drunk. Hannah recognized one of them to her dismay. It was Dolly's father, Mr. Svensson. She felt a stroke of sympathy for Dolly. At his side was a man Hannah did not know. He had a broad, florid face, was dressed like a homesteader in boots, trousers, a dirty plaid shirt. He held a bottle of liquor in one hand. The stranger caught sight of Hannah. "Well, look here," he said. "It's a little Injun girl." So the town idiots have now fallen out of the saloon. Svensson looked at Hannah. "It's not," he said, his voice slow and heavy with drink. "Not an Injun. That there's a Chinaman. Hello, Chinaman girl." Okay, yeah, the people in the town who are horrible to her actually call her a Chinaman, even though she's in fact a 14-year-old girl. But there you go. That's the thing. She did research this, and that's in the 1880s in very small towns in South Dakota. And that's why it's saying, like, the Justice of the Peace guy's totally cool, the school teacher's totally cool, but she keeps running into a couple people in the town who are just, and they're drunk. They're drunk and creepy. And now remember, in Laura's book, she talked about, like, the railroad man, when they're at the railroad, like, stay away from the railroad man at the camp. And in Prairie Girl, Laura's actual autobiography, where she told, like, the real stories behind the books, she said that it got, like, crazy. There were stories she didn't dare put in the books where she had to, like, you know, there was this her cousin or something, she had to go get a knife and back off, and terrible, and like that hotel, the crazy hotel where the Ingalls all worked, there were all sorts of awful, drunken, harassing people there that she had to deal with. Had to clop a few people. And Hannah, and yeah, there we go. It's rough on the prairie. It's like Deadwood. So she's run into these very unpleasant and dangerous people. "A Chinaman girl here, my. The other man stared at Hannah with red-rimmed eyes. "You know what they say about Chinese girls, Svensson?" His leer was repulsive. "I surely do, Connor," Svensson replied. He laughed heartily, stumbled, had to grab hold of his friend to keep his balance. Then he snatched the bottle and swinged. Remember when Laura did this, what was it, in a little town on the prairie? She had, there was an altercation with drunk people falling down in the street. Quick, while they're distracted. Hannah tried to edge past the two men. Svensson abruptly lowered the bottle from his mouth and stepped in front of her, blocking her way. Where are you going in such a hurry, Chinaman girl? I said hello. You got enough manners to say hello back?" His voice now held a note of threat. Hannah wanted to breathe deeply, but her lungs were rigid. She could almost taste the evil in the air. Her thoughts fragmented in panic. People not far away, just there across the street. Why did no one notice what was happening? Both men advanced toward her. The wall of the saloon was at her back. Surely they wouldn't do her harm here on the street, in full daylight. But if they dragged her into the alley behind the buildings? She saw their faces animated by her fear, as if they were feeding on it. Someone said, like meth heads. Yes, this is prairie meth heads. "Oh, look, you done skeered her," Connor said. "Nah, she's not scared of me. We've met before," Svensson replied. "It's you she's scared of. Come here, girlie. Nobody's gonna hurt you." Have you ever noticed that whenever somebody says, "Come here, nobody's gonna hurt you," that's usually not the case? It's like when someone says, "Trust me." It's like, oh, right up there, like, don't. Yeah, it's like, yeah, when someone says, "Come here, no one's gonna hurt you," it's like, oh, gotta go. Yep. As long as you don't put up a fight. He guffawed and then placed a hand on her shoulder, near her neck. 1800s! Plotting your hands on a 14-year-old girl. When her vision cleared a second later, she found herself staring at Svensson's collar, which was so worn that its edges had frayed, and the top button was missing. This is the problem. She's a seamstress. In the middle of defending herself, being harassed in the street, possibly assaulted, she's like, this guy's button is missing a button. She's so focused on the thing, the sewing. Mom always said that a shirt missing a button is as bad as a clock without one of its hands. "I can fix that," she said loudly. Both men blinked in astonishment, although Neither could possibly have been more surprised than Hannah herself. You're missing a button, she went on hurriedly. If you'll give me your shirt, I'll take it to her shop and sew on a button. It won't take me but a minute. This is what she goes with? Distracting. Very smart. Well, as Swenson looked down at his shirt front, she felt his hand loosen. His expression was so befuddled, she might have laughed if she hadn't been desperate to get away. She spun on her heel and took off toward the hotel. So, next time you're cornered by, like, crazy dangerous people or meth heads, try the, hey, you're missing a button. Gotta go. Apparently, it was so surprising. She element of surprise. She started talking about fixing his shirt and so confused them that she was able to run away. Poor child. Hey, Connor shouted. She heard the thump of boots on the sidewalk behind her. Up ahead, she could see the door of the hotel. She was almost there, just a little farther. The door opened and Mrs. Blake stepped outside. Hannah had to veer sharply to avoid running into her. Connors and Swenson, too drunk to react quickly, bumped into each other and somehow ended up sprawled on the sidewalk. Mr. Swenson, Mrs. Blake thundered, I'll not warn you again. You stay away from my hotel and your no-good drink-sodden, feckless friends. This establishment is for nice people. I'll call the law on you, I will. Good. A few folks came out of the hotel to witness the commotion. Another few in the street stopped to stare. Mrs. Blake turned to Hannah. She was a solidly built woman with brown hair piled high on her head and severe eyebrows that looked very dark against her pale skin, especially when she was scowling. Sounds very Harriet Oleson. Was it you that caused this ruckus? She demanded. So unfair. Hannah felt her eyes instantly grow warm with tears. She blinked rapidly and opened her mouth to protest, but she was too shaken to defend herself. No, ma'am, she said. I'll be leaving now. She was startled to realize she was still clutching a stack of lard cans. Trembling, she decided to go straight across Main Street. She would not walk past the saloon again. In front of the hotel, a sizable group of men and boys were hooting and jeering, pointing at Swenson and Connors, still sprawled on the sidewalk. Make yourselves at home down there, boys. Can't hold your drink, Swenson. Sweeping the sidewalk with your face. You missed a spot. Oh, God, they're going to be embarrassed. Quickly, she crossed the street and ducked behind the wagons and horses tied to the hitching posts. When she looked again, the two men were on their feet, trying to jostle their way out of the crowd while shouting at each other. Not my fault, you blithering idiot. You're drunker than I am. That blasted Chinaman girl. Then the two men turned into the alley. To Hannah's relief, they were soon out of sight. Hannah hurried around the back of the shop. She did not want to have to talk to Papa. She dropped the lard cans outside the lean-to and went inside to fetch a trowel. Well, yes, now remember, it's a running thing. Her dad gets so angry. He's very upset, he's very strict, but part of it is he gets so mad and he doesn't release his emotions because he admitted that if he did, he would wind up beating up everyone in town. So he's very protective of her and would probably go bonkers if she told him the story. So the prairie roses were doing well in the wash tub. All 6 bushes had survived being transplanted. Hannah went down on her knees, started scooping soil out of the wash tub, transferring it to one of the lard cans. She dug faster and faster as tears began rolling down her cheek. Soon she was just stabbing the trowel into the dirt again and again, weeping, sobbing, with enough mind left to pray that Papa would not come out the back door. Nothing she'd experienced before prepared her for this terror. Despite all the pain of being mocked and bullied in the past, she knew now that her body had always been safe. Svensson putting his hands on her had made her feel so vulnerable, as if she would never in her life be able to find strength again. When the door opened a few minutes later, it was Bess, not Papa. I thought I heard, Hannah! Oh, my stars! What's the matter? What happened? Bess knelt beside her. She put her hand on Hannah's arm, then gently took the trowel away. Hannah covered her face with her hands to smother her sobs. She sensed Bess leaving her side and returning a few moments later. By that time, Hannah had managed to stop crying. Here, Bess said, her voice quiet and steady. She gave Hannah a damp cloth. Hannah wiped her face, then pressed the cloth to her eyes for a long moment, its coolness soothing. She took a drink of water from the tin cup Bess handed her and finally felt her heartbeat slowing. "Do you want me to fetch your father?" Bess asked. Hannah looked up wild-eyed. "Oh, no, no." "Shh, all right, don't worry yourself. But we need to get you upstairs to change your dress." Bess nodded toward Hannah's right shoulder. Hannah looked down to see that her dress was torn along the seam. She stood slowly. Bess followed her through the kitchen and up the stairs to her room. As Bess undid the buttons at the back of her dress, Hannah began weeping again. The last person to help her undress had been Mama during her illness when Hannah was about 7 years old. "You're hurt," Bess said. Her voice was still quiet, but now it was tight with anger. Livid finger marks and an ugly scrape marked the skin on Hannah's shoulder. Ooh. Bess dabbed at the scrape with her damp rag. Hannah shuddered and cringed at the memory of Swenson's touch. "Who did this?" Bess asked. "Mr. Swenson," Hannah whispered. "He was with someone I didn't know. Collins, maybe, Connors." "You need to tell my pa." Remember, her pa is the law. He's the justice of the peace. "No," Hannah said again. "They'll say it was my fault." "How could it have been your fault? You're the one who's hurt, and a girl, against 2 grown men." Hannah interrupted her. "A half Chinese girl," she said, "against 2 white men. Everyone will side with them, not me." She thought of the court trials that had followed the terrible Los Angeles riots. The evidence against the white men who'd lynched as many as 20 Chinese people was overwhelming. Yet every one of the murderers been released on appeal, not because they were innocent, but because the all-white juries and judges would not punish white men for killing Chinese. "My pa will believe you," Bess said stoutly. Hannah was so weary she didn't think her bones would hold up much longer. "You and your pa," she said, her head drooping. "You might be the only ones." And she's right. But the Bess girl is totally like the Laura S. character, and her pa is very much the Charles Ingalls and Gus's Peace. Now remember, he shook on the whole school board. That school board went today. Half the town didn't want her at school. The teacher did. But a bunch of people at the school did not want her there. And Mr. Justice of the Peace, Miss Bess's dad, Mr. Harris, had to explain to them, "I don't care. She hasn't done anything wrong. The teacher wants her there. She's going to be there. I'll write to the federal government, to Washington. It'll take weeks to get an answer, but I'm telling you, no, she's allowed to go to school." So he stood up for that. So let's hope. Oh, someone said, we have a township mayor doesn't even have... Yeah, there's a lot of places. This is how the temperance movement... This is why the temperance movement happened, is that back in the day... First of all, back in the day, the booze was quite a bit stronger. It wasn't that, like, fancy stuff we get in the liquor store. It was like whiskey. It's like straight alcohol. That stuff would kill... If you tried to drink now the stuff they were drinking in the bar in the 1800s, you'd probably get alcohol poisoning and keel over. So these people were getting really drunk. And the other thing, too, is that the laws were so different then. Well, women had no recourse. Remember, back in the 1800s, women voted. Women couldn't own property. They really didn't have any recourse. If their husband became drunk and spent all their money, sold their house, let her and the children starve, beat her, it wasn't a shelter to go to. She really was stuck. There wasn't, it's one thing if there were all these rules, if there were, women's shelters and child support, and she could, like, leave and go get a job in an apartment. It's like, there was, like, nothing. They were sort of at their husband's mercy. So if alcoholism became a problem in the town, the women and children were really kind of out of luck. Their source of support and source of it was like gone. So indeed, there was, it was a problem back then. So craziness that would happen in a town with a saloon. She did in Little Town on the Prairie. She totally talks about it. And she talks about it in Prairie. So indeed, Laura. Hannah somehow managed to get through the rest of the afternoon without encountering Papa. Bess fairly flew about the place. She moved the prairie roses from the wash tub to the lard cans, emptied out the tub, cleaned it, She kept having to undo the stitches. She hardly even noticed Bess's departure at day's end. Bess had her back. She's right there. She put out some supper for Papa, then called to him that she was going to have her bath and go to bed. Filled with terrors. In the worst of her dreams, a giant-sized fence grabbed her shoulder with his gargantuan paw and dragged her toward him. She could not get away no matter how much she fought, but she tried so hard she woke herself. She told Papa she wasn't feeling well, and he went to church without her. She forced herself to rise and dress before his return. Perhaps if she fixed a good dinner, he would not notice anything amiss. Salt pork. The meal was ready by the time she heard the front door open and shut. Hannah! Uh-oh, I think he found out. She stiffened at the sound of his voice, loud and angry. A moment later, What do you mean, Papa? She was desperate to deflect his question. She was terrified if she told him the truth. He would try to even things out with Swenson, and she knew what kind of trouble that could lead to. To me after church, said they wouldn't be able to come to the opening. The very same woman who told me that they could hardly wait to have a dress goods shop in town. Something happened to change. Nothing, exactly, but I had that feeling. Folks were talking about something they didn't want me to know. He scowled. The ones who did speak to me were plenty clear. They're not coming to the opening. None of them would tell me why. And for everyone who spoke to me, I'm betting there are others who would think the same. Word must have gotten out about Hannah's encounter with Swenson. It didn't matter what it actually. Indecent, sinful, unchristian. That was how they were thinking of her. And they would not patronize a shop where such a girl worked. She pressed her hands hard against her stomach. Not only the weight of the wrongness was crushing her. She didn't know whether to cry or scream curses or run to the privy and be sick. Breathe, breathe. I've been home since yesterday afternoon, she said, careful not to lie. I haven't seen anybody except Bess. Papa was shaking his head. I guess there's nothing for it, he said. Oh, yeah, now remember Laura in the books. In the book, she talked about with the railroad town they were in when they're on the railroad. It was by Silver Lake, and she went to go pick up laundry with her friend, and they got there. She got married. She's off on her honeymoon, and they're like, she's 12. And yeah, and so even then, Lord and friend were like, things were going on in these towns. So we're like, say what? And terrible things going on in the town, which is why Laura was happy to move with Almanzo to his homestead and get out of the street. So yeah, these things did go on, and even Anna was alarmed to see him like that. I'd almost rather he were angry again. She groped for a thread of hope. What if she and Papa waited things out? Maybe the wave of gossip and rumor would ebb and eventually fade from everyone's memories. As she lived in LaForge, she and Papa would have to leave town to escape it. Already moved too many times. Hannah ate only 2 bites of her dinner. When Papa went upstairs for Sunday myself, I don't know if I could do that the next day. That's scary. Miss Walters, yay! Okay, the school teacher. Miss Walters lived on 2nd Street, east of Main. Hannah did not have to walk up Main hoping it would be Miss Walters who answered, and not her mother or brother with whom she lived. Hannah. Thankfully, Miss Walters came to the door herself. Distraught, Hannah cut short her grief. "Oh, thank you, miss." Miss Walters stepped outside. She led Hannah around to the back of the house. There was a bench against the lean-to wall. They sat down side by side. "Papa heard that—" "I'm sorry, Hannah." She did not ask why, which meant that she had heard the whispers. Hannah felt ashamed even as she battled against the feeling. "Miss, I wanted to ask if you to change their minds, get them to come to the shop." The thought of doing such a thing made her feel almost sick with misery. "I could tell them what really happened. It wasn't my fault." "I swear it wasn't, miss." "I believe." "Mr. Swenson has been involved in an unpleasant altercation." Dun 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 dun. Teacher has the goods on Mr. Swenson. Oh no. Stopped, seeing misgiving in Miss Walters' eyes. For a few long moments, neither of them spoke. "If I were you," Miss Walters said slowly, "I think I would let things alone for a while." Mended. Hannah's head bowed as she shrank into herself. Walters was acquainted with almost every family in town and would surely know better than Hannah how they might react to her calling on them. Out for the best. "Thank you, miss." Hannah said her goodbyes. On the walk back home, she wondered what it would feel like, what it would be like to feel certain that things would turn out for the best. Complete it regardless of what had happened, because Mama would have disapproved of leaving it unfinished. Odd, normally the prospect of a new dress would have been exciting. This one would forever be a reminder. A darkened corner of her mind. On Monday morning, the day before the opening, Hannah answered the door to Bess's knock, but Bess did not step inside. "I'm sorry." Terrible. She looked at Hannah, her eyes full of regret. "It's not me, I swear. It's Ma. She says I can't work for you anymore." Very still, first in shock, then with growing anger. The Harrises had obviously heard about what happened. Mrs. Harris's reaction was entirely predictable. Mr. Harris had allowed Bess to come. Pathetic, but only to a point. They were in favor of fairness and justice as long as it wasn't too inconvenient or uncomfortable. "Oh, Mama, why aren't you here?" Mama's silent answer. "Alone?" Hannah waited, her head down, staring at her shoes. Was that all? "Mama, please say something more." "Hannah, please say something." Not alone. Mama had known the importance of helping people and of accepting help from them. The missionary, Miss Lorna, Papa, their customers, her friends, maybe wrong with the help of others. "Bess, can I talk to you for a moment?" Da 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 da. So yes, okay, so that's cool. She is going to corner I mean, poor Bess. Poor Bess is right in the middle. Her ma is just like, no, 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 it's her fault and you can't go there. Blah, 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 can't. Whereas her pa, poor little Hannah go to school. They were all against that. So I don't know. Poor thing. I'm thinking ahead. So we're dun 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 dun. So tomorrow is Saturday, and then Sunday, and then that's it. Woo! We'll be done. We'll be done. Which is Laura going to San Francisco. Oh man, remember definitely by the shores of Silver Lake when because they were drunk and hadn't gotten their paychecks yet, and they're at the other place where Paul wasn't the paymaster. They had tried to hang the paymaster, and the reason that Paul didn't get beat up by the crazy man was horse thief convinced the guys to not kill him. And it was like this weird tenuous relationship because Pa and he got along and he was really good at protecting Pa, but as Ma said, there were some characters in her book that were things going on. But there you are. Alright, so tomorrow, I don't know, I feel like these cliffhangers are driving me crazy here. I don't know. I'm going to make this a 3-chapter day. Are you okay? Do you have to go anywhere? It's not very long because this cliffhanger is driving me batty. It's so sad. And clearly in this next chapter, things get right. That's like this. Da, 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 perils of Pauline. How will she get? I can't. Okay, fine. I'm reading chapter 25 because I just can't take it. Pretty clear that folks have heard about what happened Saturday, but they haven't heard the truth. They think that I misbehaved badly, so badly that they're not going to come to the opening. Or because of lies. I'm sorry, Bess whispered for a second time. How sorry? Bess blinked. Well, you say you're sorry. This is happening to us. I need the women in town to know the truth, that those men attacked me, and I wasn't misbehaving in any way. But I don't want the law involved, because then my father would have to be told. They wouldn't believe me. No, it's worse than that. They wouldn't even let me in the door to speak to them. But you could do it. They'd invite you right in. They'd listen to you, even the ones who would never give me the time. Easy. Silence. I want to help. Really, I do, Bess said, her eyes filling with tears. I just don't think I can. What would I say to Ma? The ripple of hope was dissipating. It's a hard thing. Being ignored and spited and attacked and hated and losing your business and your home and the only real friend you've had in years. For if the shot proved unsuccessful, Papa would have to sell up and thing, she hoped. Those weeks at school, when it had been just her and Bess and Sadie studying with Miss Walters. Miss Walters! Hannah's own voice surprised her. She could go with you. Bess raised her head. Do you think she would? But it took her a while to say that. Anyway, you could start by talking to her. Now, she has a point, because Bess is not only an adorable little blonde, blue-eyed, white girl. Bess is also the daughter of the Justice of the Peace and head of the school board. It's like the sheriff's kid coming around to talk to people. That's different, So, it could be. Bess seemed to stand up a little taller. That much I can do. All morning, Hannah hoped that Bess would return during the noon hour to tell her how things had gone. Dinner came and went with no visit from Bess, and then the afternoon seemed to lengthen without end. It's really a drag not having phones where someone could just call you, tell you what was happening. You had to wait for them to go and come all the way back. Hannah spent most of the day working on the dress, the last stretch of hemming, the piping on the sleeves, the 12 vexatious buttonholes. The only good thing about Bess's absence was that Hannah had more than enough to keep her busy. And while she wasn't proud of it, she couldn't help the petty, spiteful thought that Bess had left her to do all the buttonholes herself. When she had at last finished the hundreds of tiny knotted buttonhole stitches, she sewed on each of the 12 glass buttons good and firm. Then she stood and stretched, rolling her shoulders. Oh, she reached up with one hand to rub her cramped neck muscles, but then remembered the bruises and lowered her hands slowly. Don't think about it. Keep moving. After she put the flat iron on the stove to heat, she worked on covering the lard cans. Lard cans. And they're like huge. Like, I guess that would be the equivalent of getting a big old Crisco can. And then you go. Bill Graff says, I'm totally washing my chicken coop this weekend. Who's washing their chicken coop? This sister. Like a big old Crisco can. I guess so. The blue cans were lettered with the words, Pure Lard, in white. Their tin edges were rusty and the paint chipped. She picked out a pretty but inexpensive pink striped calico and cut from it 6 carefully measured rectangles. Once she'd sewn a quick rough seam to join the ends of a rectangle, she could open up the fabric to form a cylinder about 6 inches tall. She slipped a cylinder over each can and tied on a length of cream-colored ribbon. So she's making lard cozies. She made lard can cozies to cover up the lard cans. It's very pretty. But yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, you like glue fabric onto an old Crisco can. It makes it very pretty. The plants had done their part to perfection, blooming right on schedule. Hannah rearranged the window display. She moved the rack of fabric off center to the left and planted the 6 rosebuds in their disguise cans here and there on the sill. Very fancy. Papa had screwed a metal hook into the ceiling of the window well on the right-hand side. That was where she would hang the finished dress. The beautiful lawn fabric was green. The lawn ironed up beautifully, the fabric smooth and soft. Hannah hung the dress on a hanger, and the hanger on the hook. Then she stepped back to look at the entire display. It was facing into the shop, as the window itself was still covered over with brown paper. She would turn everything to face outward in the morning. The blue sky above, the lovely fabrics on the rack, the prairie roses in full bloom, especially the green sprigged lawn dress. Hannah was so proud of how the window looked, she wanted to clap her hands like a child. Mama would have loved it. And no camera, no phone to take a selfie in front of it, no camera to get a shot. And Rhoda Morgenstern with the window dressing in New York. But in the next moment, tears were wetting her eyelashes. What if no one came to the opening? What if she and Pop were the only people in town who ever saw the display? At least a dozen times, Hannah paced the length of the building, between the window at the front and the lean-to at the back, hoping to see Bess return. She waited for her friend until the sun had disappeared below the edge of the prairie. Bess did not come. Dun, 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 dun. Luckily, the chapter's not over. If she had good news, she'd have been here by now. Good night, Papa, she said, the words stilted by the lump in her throat. Her insides felt hollow. If someone didn't nudge her shoulder, she thought, she would collapse to the floor, crumpled like a threadbare rag. Papa was still in the shop, sweeping, dusting, polishing by the light of the lantern. He had already cleaned the whole place, but was doing it again, as if buffing the woodwork till it gleamed would bring in the customers. She sensed that he, too, needed to keep moving. He looked up and nodded at her, but did not stop working. Good night, Hannah. Hannah got into bed and turned on her side. She thought she might cry, but her eyes remained dry. She lay awake for a long time, bone-weary and heart-sore. Eventually, she heard Papa's tread on the stairs and the creak of the floorboards as he went to bed. In the darkest part of the night, she thought of something she'd forgotten to do. She rose, lit the lantern, and tiptoed downstairs. She found what she needed in the workroom and fetched the dress from the window display. Hannah unbuttoned the dress's collar. On the underside of the collar, near the right shoulder seam, she embroidered a tiny 5-petal lotus in pale pink thread. Then she rebuttoned the collar and smoothed it down. There, Mama. Now it's finished. She hung the dress in the window again and crept back upstairs. The night sky had lightened to gray by the time she finally fell asleep. Well, he put a lotus on the sign, says Hannah, what's the matter? Are you poorly again? Yanked from sleep by Papa's voice calling from downstairs, Hannah got up so quickly. For a moment the room reeled around her. I'm fine, Papa, she called back. What? Then hurry yourself and get down here. Mystified, Hannah dressed hastily. She rushed into Papa's room to look at the clock. It was a few minutes before 9. She couldn't remember sleeping that late before. Where's the prairie? They're like up the crack of dawn there. Then she heard an unfamiliar sound from outside. The window in Papa's room was the front of the building, above the shop. She looked out the window and choked back a cry of astonishment. On the sidewalk, there was a long line of people. A line that crossed the alley and went halfway up the next block. Mostly women and girls, and a few men. They were chatting cheerily, and those standing by the window were gazing at the display, pointing, nodding, and smiling, which meant that Papa must have taken down the brown paper and turned everything into the window to face the street. Hey, Edmunds, one of the men called out. It's 9 by my watch. You opening today or not? That's right. It's 9 o'clock, someone else said. As Hannah watched, Papa opened the door and went outside. Yes, we're open, he said. Come on in, everyone, and welcome. Hannah drew back from the window, dizzy with disbelief. Bess had done it. Somehow, she had gotten what looked like half the town to come to the opening. Yay! Oh, I knew. And Miss Walters, the teacher. Yeah. And that's the thing. The giveaway was when Miss Walters, the teacher, said, oh, yeah, Mr. Swenson has been in a few. So, has Mr. Swenson and Connors, these twins, have they caused altercations? Have they accosted other ladies in the town? Have other ladies seen them be drunk and fall in the street and been disgusted? So there you go. If she went around and said, no, Hannah didn't do anything, it was the Swenson, it was that again, they might have said, oh, I'm totally coming to the opening. So yeah. Good old Miss Walters, good old Bess. She got them going. Well, there you go. Yes, I hope they baked enough cookies. So yes, so things are picking up. So there's only, and then that's perfect. So it's 2, is that it? Is that 2 chapters? It is 2 chapters, which means it'll be tomorrow, which is Saturday. And we'll finish it. But I like this lady. This is a very good book. It's a very good book. There's so many things that are works that are like inspired by, because remember you had Laura's stuff, and then you had Rosa's stuff, and then you had Roger McBride, who inherited the whole thing from Rose, and then he started writing a bunch of books about the characters from Laura's life, and about Carolyn, and about Laura, and all of this stuff. And then he continued it. And then there's been all these books, inspired by, Linda Sue Park. There's all the books about Laura, Prairie Fires. There's Laura's real autobiography, Prairie Girl. There's just all kinds of stuff now about Laura and from her life, and people writing not only historical things like our fabulous Bill Anderson, but people writing novels about what if so-and-so met... Well, like that crazy book When Nellie Met Laura that came from HarperCollins, so about where what if the whole chapter, the whole book of On the Banks of Plum Creek were told from Nellie's point of view. So people get very creative, very good. But this is Prairie Lotus, and Bob found it online. Clarion Books put it out, and it's very good. It's very good. So it looks like it's gonna have a reasonably happy ending. I'm like, heavens. So there you are. So 2 chapters tomorrow, and then that's gonna be like the whole shebang, and we will do that. And then I don't know. Then like I said, totally doing West from Home. I don't know. Do I take a day off? I don't think so. I'll see. I may have something to do where I have to go out or do something like Sunday or I don't know. It's Labor Day weekend. I don't know. People are going, it's Labor Day weekend. Is it Labor Day? Summer is over. It's Labor Day weekend already. I'm like, I can't believe it. I'm not going anywhere. I know people are going camping. I am hanging around, so I don't know. We'll see. If there's a day that I have to take off, but I don't think so. And then also in a week and a half, 2 weeks, I'm going to go and work in a movie. So I will be pretty busy. I don't know. Maybe on my lunch break I can sneak in a chapter. I don't know. So we'll see how it goes. But there might be a couple of days where there's like a gap. I was going, day off not allowed. We'll see what we can do. Sometimes go, well, Labor Day, take Labor Day off. So we'll see how this goes. But until there is something physically stopping me, I'll just keep reading and whatnot, and it'll be fun. So there you go. See you tomorrow, and remember, wash your hands and wear your masks and call your friends to make sure they're okay, and don't be mean to little half Chinese girls living on the prairie. I love all the sewing talk. Like I said, I don't sew. There's so much sewing. Alrighty, I will see you tomorrow.